That Shoba is the mastermind behind the murder of the 28-year-old Tshegofatso Pule. Pule's pregnant body was found in an open veld in Roodepoort last year. Shoba made his second bid for bail at the Roodepoort Magistrate's Court earlier this year. However, the matter was postponed to give time to study the application and prepare a response. Let's go live to the court proceedings.
It was an Uber or someone the deceased knew. She got into the said jeep and the applicant noticed that the driver had a mask on. The said jeep drove off with her. He did not take the registration particulars of the said jeep or the driver's name. He texted the deceased saying that she must let him know when she gets home. On the 5th of June 2020, he met with his friends who I will refer to as A40. They went to Dubai where they were building a car wash. On the 6th of June 2020, he met with A40 again in the company of someone, wherein they went to Cash Build retail store to buy car wash material. On the 7th of June 2020, he returned the deceased cousin missed calls. She asked her where the deceased was and that they were at Florida police station reporting him missing. He then went to the said station wherein he informed the SABC about the CCTV at his residence. He received a call from someone who told him of the deceased person. Paragraph 4. I, on 10 June 2020, conducted an investigation at the said residence and viewed a footage which showed the applicant and the deceased outside the said residence. A grey jeep approached and stopped right in front of them. At 2206, the deceased approached the said jeep and took a ride from it. The footage did not capture the registration particulars of the said jeep motor vehicle. On the same day, I investigated further and established that there were Epcam security group CCTV cameras around the vicinity. I approached Epcam security group officers and requested to view their footage. I established that the said jeep had HV and MGP registration particulars. The said motor vehicle was traced and it was established that it was driven by Mr. Malepani on that date. Mr. Malepani was arrested on 15 June 2020. He made admissions partly exonerating himself and implicating the applicant. Paragraph 4.1, as a result of some improbabilities in Mr. Malepani's admissions, I made further investigation and the investigations revealed as follows. A 20 statement of the deceased friend was obtained. She indicated that the deceased was employed by MAC Cosmetic as a makeup artist and sales assistant. The deceased informed her at the end of January 2020 that she was 3 months pregnant. She was in a relationship with the applicant. She dated the applicant since 2018. The said relationship was on and off. She informed her that the applicant is the person who impregnated her. Between April and May 2020, the deceased started receiving messages and calls from a female person who was swearing at her and threatening to deal with her. The said female person ordered the deceased to leave a man. The deceased ended up blocking the said person from her mobile phone. During May 2020, the deceased received a message from her mobile phone. The person who sent the message identified herself as Zandi or Zanele. The person claimed to know that the deceased is a makeup artist and offered the deceased employment. A day or two, the deceased received messages of inquiry whether she accepts the position. The deceased replied that the person can call her. On 29 May 2020, the deceased started receiving calls with hidden identity and the caller did not utter any words. A message was sent to the deceased for a scheduled interview to be held at McDonald's restaurant in Omonde on 29 May 2020 between 1100 and 2000. The deceased did not reply, but the person kept sending messages. The deceased received a message with an apology from a sender stating that he or she is running late and that the deceased must go opposite McDonald's, where she would find a jeep waiting for her and she must get into it. Though there are no contents of such messages, I will request the court to refer to call data from the deceased mobile phone for the period 22nd, 29th May 2020, as it appears in subparagraphs of 5.2 infra. The said call data is from a SIM card arguably used by the applicant. 4.2 further investigation led to taking the applicant's friend statements as per A40. A40 confirmed that he was with the applicant on the 5th of June 2020. He also confirmed that he was with the applicant and another person on the 6th of June 2020, and they went to Cash Build retail store to buy car wash material needed for constructing their car wash. At the Cash Build retail store, they met Mr. Malapani, known to him as Cheese, who was in the company of another person. On 7 June 2020, whilst in the company of the applicant, he received a call and told A40 that he's going to Florida police station regarding the deceased disappearance. On 8 June 2020, the applicant came to his residence to inform him that the deceased passed on and that a body was found in Devonton. He further told A40 that he last saw the deceased on 4 June 2020 when a grey jeep came to fetch her by a male person he does not know. The applicant told him that when the deceased was at his residence on that day, his girlfriend kept calling him, and the deceased did not appreciate that. As a result, they had an argument about it. The court should be mindful that above independently corroborated by A4. However, the applicant's A5 statement is to the effect that he did not have an argument with the deceased on that day. The applicant told A40 that the deceased informed him that a ride was outside, and on taking her out to the gate, the said ride was not there. He and the deceased went back to the house to fetch his phone, and they went out for the second time, and that was when the applicant saw a jeep. According to A40, he knew the deceased as he saw her several times in the company of the applicant. It further stated that at the time of the deceased disappearance, the applicant and the deceased were no longer in a relationship. A40 knew the applicant since 2005. On the 16th of June 2020, he received a call wherein he was told that Mr. Malapani, aka Cheese, was arrested for the murder of the deceased. He contacted the applicant, who then said to him that he does not believe that Mr. Malapani is the person who murdered the deceased, and that he knows that Cheese does not know the deceased. The court should be wary of a statement made by the applicant in his bail on new facts that Mr. Malapani had a relationship with the deceased, while at the same time his own friend made mention of the above. Paragraph 4.3, further investigation led to statements taken from Mr. Malapani's friends as per A18 and A15. In their corroborating statements, they indicated that on the 4th of June 2020, they were at Mr. Malapani's girlfriend's residence consuming alcohol when Mr. Malapani received numerous mobile communication. A further call that he received, he answered, "I am coming." The duo left to buy more alcoholic beverages, and as they came out of the yard, they noticed a white motor vehicle, Volkswagen Polo with registration particulars TVD158GP. Next to the said motor vehicle was a man short in height, dark in complexion, and hairy face. They will be able to identify the said person if they see him again. The investigation established further through motor vehicle tracking system that the said motor vehicle was indeed at the said location. This information was further corroborated by tower location from both mobile phone used by the applicant as well as a call made by the applicant to Mr. Malapani. The tracking device of the said motor vehicle also corroborated the same location. Paragraph 4.4, a statement was obtained from personnel from JSE as per A47. Such statement confirmed that on 26 May 2020, a call was remotely made by the applicant from JSE landline and connected to a certain mobile phone. I was able to establish that the said mobile phone connected to JSE was not registered in the applicant's name, and it was used to contact Mr. Malapani several times between the period of 20 May 2020 and 14 June 2020. Paragraph 5. Mobile phone records of the applicant, Mr. Malapani, and the deceased were obtained. It became apparent from the investigation that the applicant used unregistered mobile phone not only to contact Mr. Malapani but inter alia the deceased. The said contact disclosed that it was continuously used between the periods 25 to 29 May 2020 to send messages to the deceased mobile number at the time she was moved to McDonald for employment prospects. The deceased was fortunate that she did not attend the said interview. Paragraph 5.1. As indicated in 4.4 above, it was used to contact Mr. Malapani between the period of 27 May 2020 to 14 June 2020. Mr. Malapani was contacted at least once on 27 May 2020, 3 times on 28 May 2020, 11 times on 29 May 2020, 2 times on 30 May 2020, 3 times on 3 June 2020, and 23 times on 4 June 2020, 5 times on 5 June 2020, once on 11 June, and once on 14 June 2020. Paragraph 5.2. The records thus shows as follows. 5.2.1. 20 May 2020, 1611, 6 seconds, outgoing call 8 seconds to the deceased. Communication between the applicant and the deceased through his RICA SIM is also noted through WhatsApp messages. Such communication was initiated by the deceased as 1651, 1703, 1707, and as 1710. Paragraph 5.2.2, 22 May 2020, 1629 minutes 23 seconds, no answer by the deceased. Communication between the applicant and the deceased through his RICA SIM is also noted on WhatsApp, initiated by the deceased at 9:51 and at 10:00. Paragraph 5.2.3, 25 May 2020, messages were sent to the deceased at 1400, 2 minutes 6 seconds, 1400, 2 minutes 10 seconds, 1400, 2 minutes 14 seconds. Communication between the applicant and the deceased through his RICA SIM is also noted on WhatsApp, initiated by the deceased at 1957 and at 1847. Paragraph 5.2.4, 27 May 2020, 1429, 7 seconds, message sent to Mr. Malapani. 5.2.5, 28 May 2020, 1306 minutes, 14 seconds, outgoing call, no answer by Mr. Malapani. 1308 minutes, 42 seconds, outgoing call, Mr. Malapani. 1458 minutes, 44 seconds, message to the deceased. 1458 minutes, 47 seconds, message to the deceased. 1706 minutes, 49 seconds, message to the deceased. 1830 minutes, outgoing call to Mr. Malapani. There is communication noted on WhatsApp, initiated by the deceased at 1858, 1859, and at 1802. Paragraph 5.2.6, 29 May 2020. 810 minutes 7 seconds. Outgoing call to Mr. Malapani, 816 minutes 28 seconds. Outgoing call to Mr. Malapani, 10:59 minutes 20 seconds. Incoming call from Mr. Malapani, 11:02 minutes 45 seconds. Message to the deceased, 11:23 minutes 36 seconds. Incoming call from Mr. Malapani, 11:27 minutes 25 seconds. Message to Mr. Malapani, 11:45 minutes 44 seconds. Incoming call from Mr. Malapani, 11:47 minutes 30 seconds. Message to the deceased, 12:16 minutes 58 seconds. Incoming call from Mr. Malapani, 13:52 minutes. Outgoing call, no answer by Mr. Malapani, 13:53 minutes 12 seconds. Going call with his recursive card, no answer by Mr. Malapani, 13:55 minutes. Outgoing call to Mr. Malapani, 14:07 minutes 5 seconds. Outgoing call to Mr. Malapani, 14:09 minutes 26 seconds. Outgoing call to Mr. Malapani. It became apparent when investigating tower location on the said day Mr. Malapani was at Onya on Monday between 11 and 1200. Although messages were sent to the deceased with this number, there was no call made by the accused, rather the applicant to the deceased with his recursive card. The only contact by the applicant and the deceased was through WhatsApp messages. Such communication was initiated by the deceased at 1412, which was 3 minutes later after the said unregistered SIM card ended the communication with Mr. Malapani. Paragraph 5.2.7, 4 June 2020. Mr. Malapani was contacted 23 times with the said unregistered SIM card. The investigation revealed the following: 953 minutes 48 seconds. Outgoing call to Mr. Malapani, 1309 minutes 50 seconds. Outgoing call to Mr. Malapani, 13.
We're coming out of that court process and we'll be sure to take you back to find out what the outcomes of this day are. But let's take it